The wind howled outside as I sat on my living room couch, wrapped in a blanket, trying to unwind after a long day. It was a chilly November night, kind that settles deep into your bones. My house sat on the edge of town, surrounded by woods, a place I usually found peaceful. That night, there was an unease in the air that I couldn't shake. It started subtly, almost unnoticeable. Faint rustling outside the window that I dismissed as the wind playing tricks. But then there was a louder sound, a definite crunch of footsteps on the dead leaves outside. I paused the TV, holding my breath, listening intently. Crunching stopped and everything went eerily silent again. I tried to convince myself it was just an animal, but something about the sound felt off. I peered out the window into the darkness, my eyes struggling to adjust. I couldn't see anything unusual, but the uneasy feeling lingered. I stood there for a moment, staring into the blackness of my backyard, when I noticed something, a slight movement near the tree line. My heart skipped a beat. There, standing just beyond the reach of the porch light, was a figure. A man. I could barely make out his shape, but he was standing perfectly still, facing my house. I blinked, hoping I was imagining things. When I opened my eyes again, he was still there. Panic surged through me as I realized he was watching me. I backed away from the window, heart racing. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking, and dialed 911. The dispatcher's voice was calm, soothing even, as she asked me questions. I explained what I saw, and she reassured me officers were on their way. But in the pit of my stomach, I couldn't shake the feeling something was terribly wrong. While I waited for the cops to arrive, I did my best to stay calm. I locked all the doors and windows, double-checked them, and retreated to the hallway where I couldn't be seen from outside. The minutes felt like hours. Finally, I saw the flashing lights of the police cruiser pull up in front of my house. 2 officers came to the door. I explained what had happened, and they did a sweep of the property. They didn't find anyone, of course. The man had disappeared into the night, leaving no trace behind. They assured me it was probably just a prank or someone passing through the woods, and suggested installing some security lights and cameras as a precaution. I nodded, grateful for their advice, but I couldn't shake the dread that hung in the air. The officers left, and after a while, I convinced myself that they were right. Maybe it was just a one-time thing, a weird coincidence. I tried to get some sleep, but every sound, every creak of the house made me jump. The next day, I went out and bought the brightest security lights I could find and installed them around the perimeter of the house. I set up a camera that would send an alert to my phone if it detected any movement. For a brief moment, I felt a little safer, thinking I'd done everything I could to protect myself. That night, I sat on the couch again, trying to relax. The lights outside gave me some comfort, casting long shadows across the yard. But the unease from the night before still lingered. I kept glancing at the camera feed on my phone, checking for any signs of movement. And then, just like the night before, it started again. A soft rustling outside the window. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. Slowly, I reached for my phone, pulling up the camera feed. The screen showed nothing, just the empty yard bathed in the glow of the security light. I exhaled shakily, trying to calm myself down. Maybe it really was just an animal. But as I lowered my phone, I heard it, a distinct click, followed by a sudden, jarring silence. The power had gone out. I was plunged into darkness, my heart racing. I grabbed my phone, using the flashlight to navigate through the house. My mind raced. Why had the power gone out? Had he cut the lines? Was he back? I peeked out the window again, trying to see if anyone was out there. The security lights had shut off with the power, leaving the yard in darkness. I squinted, trying to make out any shapes in the shadows. And then I saw him. He was closer this time, standing just beyond the edge of the porch. His face was obscured by the darkness, but I could feel his eyes on me. He was back. Without thinking, I dialed 911 again, my fingers trembling as I explained the situation. They promised to send officers, but it would take time for them to get there. I backed away from the window, my heart racing. I grabbed a kitchen knife, holding it tightly as I retreated to the hallway again. Every second felt like an eternity. I kept my eyes on the front door, waiting for the sound of footsteps or a knock, and then out of nowhere, there was a loud bang on the back door. My heart nearly stopped. I knew it was him. He was trying to get in. I clutched the knife tighter, not knowing what to do. My mind was racing with worst-case scenarios. Should I try to confront him? Should I hide? I felt completely powerless. Then I heard another noise. A different one. Footsteps, but lighter this time, coming from the other side of the house. My blood ran cold. Was there someone else out there? I hadn't even considered the possibility of there being more than one person. But now, with the power out and strange sounds surrounding me, I realized I wasn't just dealing with one intruder. I backed into a corner, my phone still in my hand, desperately hoping that the police would arrive soon. I kept my eyes trained on the door, listening to every creak and thud in the house. The tension was unbearable. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I saw the flash of police lights through the window. The officers rushed to the front door, and I let them in, my voice shaking as I explained what had happened. They did another sweep of the property, but just like the night before, there was no sign of the intruders. The cops took me seriously this time. They suggested more safety measures, reinforcing the doors and windows, maybe even staying somewhere else for a while. I nodded, but deep down, I knew that wouldn't make me feel any safer. Whoever they were, they knew where I lived. They had come back once, and I had a feeling they wouldn't hesitate to come back again. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump, every shadow made my heart race. And the worst part? I still had no idea who they were or what they wanted. But I knew one thing for sure. They weren't done with me yet.